Good morning, listeners, and welcome to Mercury, a broadcast of hope. I'm Max O'Brien, here today with Agnes Drew and Dr. Rosalind Clark. It's day 1087 since we came back on the air, and I have a big surprise for Agnes.
Is it a good surprise?
I think you'll like it. He told me about it before we got on the air.
Well, don't keep me in suspense.
Here, it's a book I found on my scavenging run the other day. I don't think I'd ever seen it in your collection, so I grabbed it. The Best of H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh,
You don't like it? Not a horror fan?
I mean, it's very thoughtful of you to bring it back, and I do like horror from time to time. It's just...
Oh, we're living in a horror story right now. I should have known you might not like it.
No, it's not that. It's just that... How much do you know about H.P. Lovecraft?
I know he had this whole mythos about Cthulhu and Relia, and he didn't write very descriptive stuff. I mean, he would sometimes go on about how indescribable the horror was, and then he would try to describe it.
He was also very, very racist, and that's why I have trouble with his work.
I think I'd heard that about him. Did it influence his writing? I confess, I've never read anything he wrote.
It was hugely influential in his writing. A lot of his stories are about dehumanizing processes. Honestly, I'd really rather not talk about it on the air. It's so ugly when you get into it. I don't deny that he's a hugely influential writer, and a lot of great work has been inspired by him. So I guess I respect him as an artist, but it's not something I care to read myself. I appreciate you thinking of me, though, Max.
Wow, I didn't know any of that. And it really puts a highlight on separating the art from the artist. Is it possible to even do that?
I think it depends. I remember a lot of my colleagues in the arts departments talking about this from time to time. You have to take the whole thing into context and then figure out how you feel about it.
Yeah, Lovecraft's racism was well known. It's just that at the time he was alive, his views weren't really outside the norm. Gradually, societal norms changed, but the racism that was in his writing stayed the same. So it's not like we didn't know, it's just that some people started to care more. In other cases, we sometimes didn't know about other aspects of an artist's life. When the body of work is pretty much complete, when the news that they were a terrible person who did terrible things comes out, then it forces everyone to look at that body of work in a different context. What about you, Max? How does this make you feel about the book you're holding in your hands?
I think it's important to recognize art for what it is. I think art isn't inherently good or bad. I think it's just like everything else. It depends on how you use it. Like, I remember reading a few articles before the zombies rose up about this sculpture on the side of a mountain in Georgia. Can't remember the name.
Oh, Stone Mountain.
Yeah, that's it. Guess I should have remembered that. Anyway, the sculpture is of three leaders of the Confederacy: Jefferson Davis, Robert E. Lee, and Stonewall Jackson. The Confederacy was a terrible time in this country's history, and it's a shame that it's still glorified in some parts of the country. I never really understood why statues for the losing side were put up in so many places. But statues can be taken down. That sculpture is the largest bas-relief in the world, and it's a work of art that glorifies people who rebelled against their own country just so they could have the right to own other people.
I remember reading about that too. Wouldn't taking it down also be really hard?
I would imagine so. Stone Mountain is the largest exposed piece of granite in the whole world. You can't sandblast that sculpture off of it. It just physically wouldn't work. Your only real choices would be to send teams up there to chip it away the same way they sculpted it the first time, which would be hugely expensive and dangerous, or just blast it off with dynamite, which would leave a giant, ugly scar on the side of the mountain.
I wonder what it looks like now. 3 years of no maintenance or anything? Maybe nature's reclaiming itself.
Wouldn't surprise me. As they say, life finds a way.
Yeah. Now we just need to find a way to get rid of these zombies, and we can work on learning the lessons we've all been shown during this time.
That's for another day, though. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's all think about it for a while, and maybe if we come to any new insights, we can revisit it on the air. For now, we've got to go. For Mercury, a broadcast of hope, this has been Max O'Brien, Dr. Rosalind Clark, and Agnes Drew. Take care of each other.